Okay, welcome back. We're going back into Photoshop. So we already did all the blemishes, and now we're doing the stage two of our high-end retouch. So this is the part where we are going to create a copy of this merged layer we just made. So I'm going to do Control J. So now I have the layer 2, the copy that was of my blemishes on top of the layer 1, and then I create a copy of that, so that's Control J. So now I have these two merged layer copies. We're using these to do what we call the high or the frequency separation, to get the high frequency, which is going to be our detail layer, and the low frequency, which is our color tone layer. So I'm going to rename this top one detail, and then I'm going to rename layer below it color. I'm going to hide the detail layer so that's not visible, and with the color layer selected, I'm going to come up to the menu bar, click on filter. I'm going to go down to blur, and then cross over to Gaussian blur. Then in the Gaussian blur dialog box, I'm going to increase the radius. I'm going to go in increments of 2. And again, based on your camera sensor, the resolution of your camera, with the lighting and the lens that was used, this is going to determine like how much, you're going to have to increase. If we were using a camera that was like 4 megapixels, 2 to 4 would be enough, or it might even be too much. If we, had a camera that was, 50 or 60 megapixels, we would have to increase more than like 8 or 9 that we've done in class. So again, that's where, that's what really is going to determine like how much you're going to increase. So I'm going to zoom in, Control plus. I'm going to hold the space bar so I can just click and drag so I can see, the portrait of the person's face. So again, I'm going in increments of 2 on the slider, going to drag up next to like 4. I'm starting to see blur. I'm going to zoom in a little more, Control plus. I want the image to get blurry where I no longer see the fine details. I can still see some fine details around the eyes here, and even a little bit, where the smile line's on the mouth. So as I increase, I should start seeing those fine details blur, which also means the fine details on the lips, the I should start seeing like the eyelashes kind of like blurring out where I can't really see good detail, those strong lines on the lashes. Those are the things I'm looking for to determine like how much blur I need, so that way all that remains is color and tone, but without the detail. So that way I'll have a good image to use to subtract, the detail from, to subtract the color tone from that detailer. So for my image, 7.6 looks pretty good, so I'm going to OK that. Again, based on your image for your subject in your lighting conditions, your values may be different. So really pay attention to see that changing occur on the face when those fine details like the, any kind of smile lines or, age lines, around the eyes, around the mouth start to fade out. They're blurred. Pores, pores become less visible or pretty much not visible at all. Freckles blend so well that you can't distinguish that the person has freckles anymore. So you're looking at all those things on the skin, not so much the hair, the eyelashes, eyebrows. It's more about what's happening to the skin. So I'm done with the blur on the color layer. And now I'm going to select the detail layer, turn on the detail layer, and now I'm going to go up to the menu bar, click on image. I'm going to move down towards apply image. In the dialog box where it says layer merged, I'm going to click that and I'm going to select color. So I'm using the color layer that's right below the detail. And what I want to do, I want to tell Photoshop, hey, subtract that color from this detail layer. And what I want to have is a scale of 2. And what's going to remain is 128. So my offset is 128, scale of 2. So that way, when I apply this image effect, all the color and tone is taken away from this layer, and all that remains on it is the actual detail. So I want to go to the layer palette where it says normal. I'm going to select normal and then scroll down and switch this to linear light. So that way I have my image looking exactly how it did before I did any changes. So once I have that done, I have the detail and the color layer. So what I want to do is select the color layer. I'm going to make a new copy of the color layer, so Control J. And now I'm going to click on the name. I'm going to rename this Skin Soft. And then on this layer that's been named Skin Soft, it's selected. I'm going to right click, just right off to the side, not on the image, but on the name of the layer, or off to the side of the name of the layer. Right click, and I want to convert to Smart Object. I should see a little icon on the thumbnail of the image of that layer. I'm going to go to Filter from the menu bar, click on Filter. I'm going to go down towards Camera Raw Filter. And in Camera Raw Filter, depending on the version of Lightroom, you want to get to your 2 sliders, that is your texture and clarity. So it's either in the effects, or for those of you who have like a later, earlier version of Lightroom, it's going to be going to your panel where it's the light, or your kind of like the basic panel, and then you'll see the texture and clarity slider. Texture, I'm going to pull all the way to the left to make it -100. I'm going to zoom in so I can see the face more on my screen. Now my clarity slider, I'm going to move this to the negative, and again, based on your resolution of your camera, the lighting, your subject, all of those come into play on how much clarity you actually need. As I reduce this, I'm looking to a point on the face where it starts to obviously blur more, but also begin to look like it's glowing. When I have that glow come on, that's when I know I have enough of the clarity pulled down in the negative. So like this, I'll put this to -45, and I'm going to OK that. So when that's applied, I'm going to see this glow kind of go over the entire face. Obviously, it's affecting the entire image, which is what I don't want. Right, I'm just turning this on and off to see before and after. So you see how before it's really blending in those colors and values, making it even more even. What I want to do is I'm going to hold down my Alt key, and then I'm going to click on the layer mask, so that way I'm adding that mask with black filled in, which takes away that glow. It's there, it's obviously just being hidden by the mask. So I'm going to use my brush tool, B on the keyboard shortcut. I want to make sure I have white filled in, so I hit D on my keyboard for default, and then I just need to hit the X key to make sure I have white loaded on the foreground color. I want to make sure I have 0 hardness, so it's a soft brush. Making sure the mode of the brush is set to normal. Opacity, I'm going to pull this down to about, I'll go 80. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to reduce how strong the brush is. My flow was set to 20, but I'm going to bring that up maybe to about 70. So by reducing opacity and flow, it's making the brush a little bit more gentle. So when I click, it starts to slowly bring back the effect of that softening of the skin. I'm going to zoom in a little, Control plus, spacebar, and click and drag. And making sure the brush is a bit big, because since it's a soft brush, the edges of the brush are going to be more feathered, kind of like getting lighter, letting it blend in, softer with the surrounding image. So that way when I click and making sure, right before I start, making sure that the mask has the white selected around it. So that way I'm painting on that mask. So then I'm just going to obviously go around the face. I'm going to avoid, strong details like these fine hairs up in this area. I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to avoid the eyebrows, the eyes, the eyelashes. I'm going to avoid the mouth, the lips and the teeth. I'm going to avoid the jawline. So it's really just the surface, the larger surfaces of the face that will get this skin softening. Now if I want to see how this is looking in the mask level, or the mask view, I can hold down the Control Shift, and then click on the mask. Oh, sorry, I'm going to deselect. So Alt Shift. So I'm in mask view. Making sure I have white loaded on my, again, foreground color. So that way I can continue painting. See how it's a very light pink in these areas, because my opacity and flow have been reduced. So it takes me, it's like a little bit more, like a few passes to really make this kind of like clear, which is fine, because again, I don't want it to go too fast, too quickly. So that way I have control over it. Adjusting my brush size. If you paint too much, you can always, flip the color so you have black loaded on the brush to kind of like fix any kind of overpainting you may have done, and then flip that color right back to white to continue taking away the black part of the mask, which is painting with white, so that way the softening will appear on the large surface areas of the face, on the skin. Because we also want to apply it not just to the face, but neck, shoulders, any part of the skin that's showing. But again, trying to avoid those strong details, those strong transitional changes that are happening on the face, which are usually the features of the face. Changing the brush size to get in. It's getting a little tight. Increasing brush size again. So again, when it comes to the nose, I'm trying to avoid the nostrils and the bottom edge of the nose. But I'm going over the bridge, the sides, the tip of the nose. You know, doing the cheeks, but as I come close to the side of the face, coming down towards the jaw, I'm trying not to go over that edge. So that way I make the edge of the jawline strong by not letting that part get soft. I'm going to get out of the mask mode just by clicking on the icon of the image on that layer, so that way I can, oh, see what I just did? I painted on a blank layer, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to Control Z. I accidentally clicked on to add a new layer, but I don't want, I want to make sure I'm on the mask layer. And now I'm going to continue painting on the mask layer, so that way that softening will appear just below the detail layer, above the color layer, so that way I've got this color and tone blending stronger and better to give the skin a softer appearance. Like anything that you do in Photoshop, once you're done applying that, then you always want to adjust the opacity of that layer, which is adjusting like how strong you want that change to appear on your image. So again, I'm going to cover the chest, going towards the shoulder, over the areas. I'm going to go over these fine little hairs that are kind of over the chest area, kind of like those flyaways that I addressed during the blemish stage, knowing that I was going to be doing skin softening, so this is actually kind of helping reducing those not as visible. I'm not going to go over all the hair because this obviously has a lot more texture, it's more focused. It's these little flyaways that kind of like left, you know, the group or the bigger bunch of hair. So to me, I'm okay with softening these areas. And then if I go back into the mask view and holding the Alt Shift, clicking on the mask, see how that looks. So I can find like little spots like this where I can clean up, get a little bit closer near the jawline. So once I have that done, do a little bit more right here on the nose. Okay, so again, I can turn this on and off to see before and after. Very strong, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of it. I'm going to go down to like, I'll do 60, see how that looks. as they're off and on. See the effect. And I think that's pretty good. I'll keep it at 60. All right. So now that I'm done with my frequency separation and softening of the skin, I'm going to make my new merged copy. So I'm going to do my Control Shift E. So now I'm done and I'm going to be moving on to stage 3.